All right, a little over a week ago, after a 10-year court battle, the Louisiana Supreme Court ruled in favor of the proposed city of St. George, allowing a local community to separate from the city of Baton Rouge. They're actually in the city, in the parish, but they can create their own city. They can take control of their own streets and create their own schools, which is really the genesis for this. And I know a little bit about this because I was a part of creating the independent schools for another city in East Baton Rouge about 25 years ago. And in fact, the city I live in was created for the same reason, to give local control. Well, there's been fierce opposition from Baton Rouge to keep this community's tax base because it's a very affluent area. But the court ruled that the organizers followed the proper process. Imagine that, following the law. They followed the process for incorporation, and they would be able to provide for its residents with the proper public services, but yet the opponents are still screaming. Joining me now to discuss this is Andrew Murrell. He is the spokesman for the city of St. George. He helped provide the leadership to the effort. Andrew, welcome to Washington Watch.
Oh, thanks for having me, Tony.
So I know, as I mentioned, a little bit about this process, gone through it back when I was in the state legislature. The opponents are saying this is racist. Why?
Clickbait, Tony. That's as simple as that. It's a divisive comment that once made creates passion and anger. And unfortunately, it's not true, but it's used by the opposition to create that division so people will quit looking beyond that word and to looking deeper into the real issues.
So this has garnered international attention because of that, as you say, described as clickbait. But the reality is, and this is my parish, I live in East Baton Rouge Parish, I know it quite well, I've held office in East Baton Rouge Parish. East Baton Rouge Parish is having an exodus of citizens and people leaving the community. This actually would help the entire parish.
Well, two things to note. Number one, the census says otherwise. We're the fastest growing minority population in the parish is in the St. George area. And you're exactly right. Our citizens have been voting for decades now with their feet and moving to the outlying parishes. And while they're booming, we're declining.
And why is it? Why are they leaving?
Well, I mean, simple reasons, the things people don't want to look into. High crime, poor education, one of the worst education systems in a country ranked near the bottom, and no opportunity. They're leaving, they're taking their businesses, their tax dollars, their families, and their futures to other places.
You've pointed out in your defense of the citizens of St. George to do this, that the parts of the parish that are prospering are what parts?
Well, the parts that have done exactly what we've done. They form their own cities. Ultimately, they form their own school districts. And now those same areas are enjoying top 5 school districts in the state, while the East Baton Rouge system, again, ranks near the bottom.
But when you have a community like Central, community I live in, Zachary, which is another one in East Baton Rouge Parish, and now St. George, part of that tax base still goes to the parish.
Well, and that's another misnomer from the opposition, that we're taking our money and going elsewhere. But we're not leaving. We're all trying to stay here. We don't want to leave, and we're fighting for the right to stay here. So yes, the tax dollars, your property taxes, for example, in the city of St. George will continue to benefit East Baton Rouge Parish for decades. And where you live, in fact, has grown their tax base to the point where the parish is making more money off the city of Central now than it ever did when it was unincorporated.
Is this an example, Andrew, of people wanting government closer to them so they can help make decisions and shape what their streets look like, what their schools look like? I mean, isn't that the basic part of having representative government?
Well, absolutely. Accountable to you, the citizen, you, the taxpayer. Your tax dollars actually going back to benefit you. It's a novel concept. Seems to be an exception these days.
So, Andrew, what are the next steps?
So the next steps for us, we have one more rehearing with the Louisiana Supreme Court. Once we win that hearing, the governor is going to appoint an interim mayor and city council, and then we will start collecting that tax revenue. And whether you're for us or against us, come to the table, and the next year we're going to start creating the foundation for St. George.
So give us kind of a timeline of what that looks like from here.
Well, at this point, we have a transition district that's sole purpose is to transfer some of those services from Baton Rouge to the city of St. George. That group will begin their work, and over the next year, you'll see the master plan for the community coming into place. Planning, permitting, and zoning will be created to, again, be accountable directly to the citizens of St. George with their own representatives.
So have the officials in East Baton Rouge Parish kind of come to terms with this, realizing that this is the future and that they need to work with the city of St. George?
No. No, we've never, as many times as we've reached out to have what I would say an amicable conversation, we have never had a polite or friendly conversation with them at this point. They've refused to have it.
But the response from the citizens in this new city in St. George has been overwhelming multiple times. I mean, the citizens voted on this. This wasn't just a group of people that decided this. The citizens voted on it. The citizens have been pushing and funding this effort to defend it in court.
That's right. Over 17,000 people showed up in an election with a 60% voter turnout and voted in favor of incorporating St. George. And over 4 years later, we're still fighting in court for that right. We're still fighting for the right to vote.
And so, bottom line, who's been fighting you the whole time?
Well, we have the mayor to blame. She's a member of the lawsuit. But there's also members of the Baton Rouge aristocracy. They want to maintain their grip and control over Baton Rouge. They like how things have been going. It benefits them. And now someone's challenging that status quo, and they're unhappy about it.
Well, Andrew, what I think this is, as I've seen it before, is citizens getting involved. It brings them into the process. It gives them a stake in the process. Schools improve. The business community improves. And over time, and we've had the city of Central about 20 years, as you pointed out, the tax base for the entire parish grows. So this is what really elected officials should embrace.
You would think so. The right to vote, the right to self-govern, the right for self-determination, all fundamental principles that we should embrace and I'd hope protect, and they're challenging. Exactly.
Andrew, I want to thank you for joining us, and congratulations on sticking with this and seeing it all the way through to success.
Well, thank you for giving us a voice. I appreciate it.
And folks, this is what we're encouraging people to get involved. This, I believe, is really the hope of our country, is that we begin to grab the authority and the power that is invested in us as citizens to make a difference right where we live. You know, we may not be able to change Washington. We might not be able to change, you know, the capital, the state capital, but we can certainly start right in our own community.